Right, we're going to use some mnemonic devices to learn the Old Testament books of the Bible. And this time we're going to compare it not to a wrestling match, but to a baseball game. All right, so here we go. How is the Old Testament like a baseball diamond? Well, first of all, this is a complete side track because this has nothing to do with baseball. But an easy way to remember how many books there are in the Old Testament. There are 39 books. And if you look at the letters, there are 3 letters in the first for Old and 9 in Testament. 39. So if you ever forget, you can count that out. All right, now back to our baseball game. All right. There are 5 sections of the Old Testament. And that's the 5 sections that we're going to put on the baseball field. So first of all, we're going to have the first 5 books of the Bible from Moses. Then there are 12 history books. So we have the History Channel there. 5 books of wisdom or poetry. So we've got the brain. 5 major league prophets. It wasn't that they were more important, but they were bigger books. So 5 big major books and 12 minor prophets. So we've got the major leagues and the minor leagues. All right. So to gear up for the first 5, I want you to imagine the baseball player going up to the plate. Only this is kind of a kooky little baseball team because this guy gets up to the plate and instead of grabbing the bat, he pulls out of his pocket some hair gel. Gel, G-E-L, okay? He's going to squirt that gel into his hand. All right? The G stands for Genesis, the E for Exodus, and the L for Leviticus. And we have some ways that you can remember those, if you can see that here. Genesis is the beginning, Exit for Exodus, and the little Levi tab for Leviticus. Okay? So this player squirts the gel on his hand, and then he takes that gel and instead of smearing it into his hair, he pats his back and smears it on the number on his back. So our next one is Numbers. Okay. Now once he has this little routine done, have you ever seen this? Sometimes players come up to the plate and they do certain little kind of superstitious little things that they go through these motions of hitting the plate or smearing their putting their helmet down farther or doing some sort of little ritual. So this guy does the gel on his number. After he's done with that, he's due to run. Okay? Due to run, ready to run. That's Deuteronomy. Okay? So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Our slide person has just completely touched too many buttons. Okay. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. He's due to run. You can also remember that by Ron and Amy. Deuteronomy sounds a little bit like Ron and Amy. These are tough words to learn. They're not common English words, but you can do this. All right, next one. All right. After that, we start into the history books. And the first 3 are Joshua. Imagine this judge's name is Joshua. And he is going to judge. This is a mallet, but he's going to judge. Have you ever seen a courtroom drama or something where they hit the hammer, hit the mallet? Judge. And this over here is Ruth. Okay? So you can think about our umpire being Joshua. And he's going to judge Ruth as safe. He's going to say that she's safe. Okay? So Joshua judges Ruth. Ruth has made it to the base. Okay. After that, we're going to look at our first and second bases. Okay, here's home plate, first and second base. And I want you to remember that Uncle Sam is on first and he's going to run to second base. He's going to be on both bases. Uncle Sam. Okay? The only thing strange about this Uncle Sam is instead of wearing his Uncle Sam hat, he's going to be wearing a hat that kings wear. Okay? So we've got Sam and a king. And then you can think of this next one two ways, depending on what you're familiar with. There's a newspaper here. So you can think about him getting on first base and whipping out his newspaper to read the Chronicles. Or you can think about him whipping out his C.S. Lewis book. If he's reading the Chronicles of Narnia, you might have heard the word that way, Chronicles. Okay, so all three of these things are going to be on first and second base because they're first and second. So we have first and second Samuel, first and second Kings, first and second Chronicles. And I don't care if you use the idea of the newspaper or the Chronicles of Narnia, but remember, Sam comes first, then the king, then the Chronicles. Okay, so here's our poster for us to review. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Smear that on your number, and then your Deuteronomy. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, safe. Then 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Look how far you've come already. You're doing great. Okay, now from second base to third base, we have a bit of a problem because there is a wall between second and third base. You don't have to worry. It's not a huge brick wall. It only goes about knee high. Okay, so you can jump it. Okay. So over here we've got Ezzy. She's on second base. I know she's a cheerleader here. But Ezzy's on second base. She's going to have to jump over this wall to get to third base. But if she makes it, she's going to be a star. Okay? Now instead of Ezzy, she's going to represent Ezra. Ezra. This wall that's knee-high is Nehemiah. Nehemiah. And if she makes it to third base, she's going to be a star. That's for Esther. Esther. So after we have Sam, Kings, and Chronicles on 1st and 2nd, we have Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Now we're on third base. 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. We've made it through all the law books and all the history books. Now we're going to go to the wisdom books. Now someone has piled dirt that was supposed to go to the pitcher's mound. They piled it out in the outfield, right in center outfield. And this big pile of sand is going to be our next clue for the books of wisdom. It wasn't very wise to pile the sand there, okay? Wisdom books. So first of all, let me read them to you. They are Job, Psalm, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, either way. Okay, so we're going to start with Job, which is spelled Job. So I want you to think of this guy. He had one job to do. He had to pile that sand on the pitcher's mound. He failed. Job. Okay, he's first. He was the guy that messed up. Job. Okay, now you're going to see this palm tree. Palm sounds a bit like psalm. Psalms are the songs. So out of this pile of sand that it was his job, Job, to pile, we have a psalm. There are two things on this tree that come next. The first one is this owl. Owls are supposed to be wise, right? Owls are wise. People who are wise often have wise sayings, and those are called proverbs. So this owl is Proverbs. Job, Psalm, Proverbs. Okay, this is a bit of a stretch. This ball of rubber band, I want you to think of that as elastic. Okay? So this palm tree is growing this elastic fruit. Okay? It stands for Ecclesiastes. It's a bit of a stretch, don't you think, to go from elastic to Ecclesiastes? A bit of a stretch. Do you get it? All right. Down at the bottom, if you've ever been abandoned on a deserted island all by yourself and you want a plane to see you, you would scratch into the sand SOS. That would mean you were in distress and the plane should send someone for you. Okay? SOS is in the sand, but it stands for Song of Solomon or Song of Songs. All right? Have we got him? Job, Psalm, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Okay, that's in center field. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, now we have the 5 major leaguers. These are the big books. Okay, there's 5 of them. So in the first one, we have these eyes, big eyes. Can you make big eyes? Isaiah. Isaiah. Isaiah is looking at this dude who is weeping. He's crying. He's lamenting. Okay. Isaiah saw Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, lamenting. Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet. Lamenting is another word for mourning. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. Can you think of those tears? Lamentations. Now, it's really easy to see why Jeremiah is crying. Do you want to find out why he's crying? Easy stands for Ezekiel. Ezekiel. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel. And the reason he's crying is that he just saw the schedule and realized that he has to play the lions next. He found that out because he read Daniel. Do you remember Daniel in the lion's den? Well, that story comes from the book of Daniel. So let's remember the lion triggers Daniel. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel. All right. Let me pull this back up and let's see what we've done so far. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, or Deuteronomy. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, safe. 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles on 1st and 2nd bases. Then from 2nd base goes Ezra. She jumps over the Nehemiah wall and becomes an Esther. All right, now we go out to, I think I said center field. It should have been left field, right? It's kind of crazy. And we see that Job did not do his job. We saw the Psalm tree with the Proverbs owl on it and the big elastic ball for Ecclesiastes. And then the Song of Solomon written in the sand. Then we went to the prophets and we saw the 5 major leaguers. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Now we're ready for the 12 books that were minor league. We're going to do about 3 at a time, 3 or 4 at a time. And the tricky part about this is just remembering which ones come first. Okay, so if you see this hose that the fireman is holding, think of Hosea. Hosea. So our fireman is first, right? We love our fireman. He's number 1. He's first. Hosea. But out of his hose comes Jello. Jello reminds us of Joel. That's another stretch, right? Hosea, Joel. Now he's going to spray this Jello on this moose. A moose. Sounds like Amos. Hosea, Joel, Amos. And he gets some of the Jello in that moose's eye. Okay? It's a bad eye now. Obadiah. Obadiah. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah. Okay, next one. A fish. This big fish should remind you of Jonah. Jonah. Remember he spent some time in the belly of a big fish? And we've got this microphone here. It's a mic for Micah. You can think of the fish and the horse both trying to sing into the microphones. We've got Jonah, Micah. Now this horse is, as he tries to sing into the microphone, he can't really talk, so he just says, Neah! Nahum! Okay? Jonah, Micah, Nahum. And on the horse's back, you see a backpack, which is like Habakkuk. Okay, it's on his back. Habakkuk. Habakkuk. Let's do it again. Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk. Okay, we've done 8. Most of them now. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk. There's only 4 more to go. Let's see the next 3. Okay, Zephaniah. Sounds like a zipper. Zephaniah. Zephaniah. Over here we've got a hug happening. Haggai. Haggai. Zephaniah. Haggai. And this is a sack of rye. You can't see inside of it, but inside of that is full of grain. It's full of rye grain. Okay? That is going to be Zechariah. You hear the rye? Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah. These 3 are probably the hardest ones. So picture the zipper. Zephaniah, Haggai, and then the sack of rye, Zechariah. And then the very last one is Malachi. If you've ever seen a judge, we talked about the mallet earlier when we were talking about Joshua judges Ruth, and he hits the hammer. At the end, the case is closed, right? So this is the very last one, and the Old Testament is done. And instead of calling it a mallet, we're going to call it a Malachi. Malachi is the very last one. Think we can do them all? I want you to try to picture the pictures in your mind as we go through them. Genesis, Leviticus, and Exodus are your gel. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, your gel. Numbers, picture him putting that gel on his back, and then he's Deuteronomy. Joshua judges Ruth safe. Then we've got our first and second base, right? 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. Then we've got Ezra on second base. She jumps over the Nehemiah wall, and she's the star, S-star. Okay. Then we go out to left field, and we see the man who had one job, but he failed. That's Job. Then Psalms for the palm tree. Proverbs, that's the owl. The Ecclesiastes for elastic. And Song of Solomon is the SOS. 5 major prophets. We saw Isaiah's big eyes as he was watching Jeremiah in his lamentations. It was easy, Ezekiel, to understand why. He just saw the schedule and knew they had to play the lions next, right? Daniel. Then the minor prophets. Hosea is our fireman, shooting out Joel, at Amos the moose, and getting it in his eye, Obadiah. Then we had Jonah the big fish singing into the Micah instead of microphone, and the horse saying Nahum with a Habakkuk on his back. Next we had Zephaniah with his jacket, Haggai with Snoopy and Woodstock hugging, and Zechariah was our bag of rye. And then we're done, Malachi. All right, so really the big thing to remember is just what order they go into, okay? So remember you're at home plate, then you're at first base, then first and second base, then second to third. Then we're going to have the left field books of wisdom where that sand was dumped. Then we're going to go through the 5 prophets, looking at the schedule, and then all of the silly techniques for the minor prophets, okay? So just watch the video again, and you'll start to get it. Watch it a few times, all right? You'll be able to do it. Maybe during this time that you're stuck inside on a rainy day, you can memorize those and get a little ahead in your Sparks book. All right, bye guys.